Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dustin Cormier, and today you're watching an episode of How to Rock Astrology. Today in particular, we're going to be discussing what it's like when you have the moon in Libra with Venus in Gemini. This, of course, insists that Venus is in the moon's ninth house. And there's going to be an enjoyment that we display, which is going to tap into what the moon in Libra is really, its role is kind of designed for, which is Gemini, which is the ninth house from Libra. The ninth sign from Libra, at least. There is some difficulty here because Venus is kind of still in trine to the moon, and it's a ninth house trine, which can be strong, although this isn't as strong as the eighth or the opposition from the moon. But it is going to have a little bit of difficulty that we're going to discuss. But first, I'd like to talk a little bit. I've been doing an intro discussing the symbology of the sun, Venus, and the moon in each of these videos. So, let's discuss. You guys might have enjoyed my previous series where I discussed the position of Sun and Mars in his horoscope as it relates to sexuality. In that series, I considered the sun to be the king. And it's true. The sun is the center of our kingdom. It's the center of ourselves. It's what we do. It's what we're for in a lot of ways. It's the essence of what we are. So if the sun is the king, then the moon is the queen of the kingdom. What exactly does this mean? Well, the moon is a crescent sliver of our sun's inner nature. The moon is our earthly subconscious, whose sign, house, and aspects reveal the form that our sun energy has to subside through. It's our childhood programming of our mother and of our earthly experience that we need to account for when we're dealing with the people in our lives and the relationships that we want to have, the moon things, you know? So this is like a classic duality of the classic husband and wife duality that is inside of us, the king and the queen inside of all of us. So think about it this way, you know, the husband is what he is. You know, regardless of your gender, all of us have an anima and an animus. It's the yin and the yang of the Ajna chakra. And the husband of the king of us, the sun, it is what it is. But the husband is refined by his wife, the queen, the moon, who gives a rhythm and a healthy ceiling and a realistic reality for the sun's potentials. At least that is when the moon is working properly. It gives this realistic ceiling, this realistic sense of rhythm of earth on earth that we need to move through. So consider it this way, you know, the husband looks at his wife and he says, "Honey, you know what? I'm just craving a nice big piece of blueberry pie." And the wife says, "Honey, you know what that does to your blood sugar?" Of course, she's right. She knows his body. That's a need that he needs to account for. He could ignore it, just like somebody with a bad moon will ignore these needs inside of ourselves, but you're going to get stuck. You're going to end up having trouble. You're not really going to get anywhere. You're not going to have a kingdom. You're going to destroy yourself as the pure sun energy. So when the moon is working properly, we have a sense of who we are and who we want to be and the people with us on earth. And the person doesn't actually know what they want in life if they have a weak moon, or what they want to become. Not necessarily what they want to do, but what they want to become. The sun is about what we do in the noon, in the midday. It's like, what are we for? What are we actually doing with ourselves? The moon is the nighttime vibe. It's like, who are we after we've done what we are here to do? Who is the life and the family that we build around us to sustain that thing which we do? So that's what the moon is. You know, if we didn't need to eat, to sleep, to have sex, to enjoy friendship and subjective meaning within ourselves, then we would just infinitely express our sun. But that's not the case. We need to eat. We need to sleep. We need to have sex to a relative degree. This is part of our base potentials of what the moon is. So basically, if anyone wants to get in touch with the king's personal quarters, the sun, you must do so through the queen, i.e., the moon. Venus is the sun's self-enjoyment style. Venus is how we express affection. It's the sun's outgoing desire. But whatever Venus attracts is subject to the subconscious reaction complex of the moon. So, what does this exactly mean in terms of today's discussion? We are looking at somebody with Libra moon with Gemini Venus here. Now, first thing I'm going to do is just kind of give my own personal spiel about it. What I would say is that, again, there is some damage of Venus being in a trine from the moon here. And, so I've been talking about in this video series that the moon is more primary than Venus. The moon is how we have to adapt to the world, and we need to act on the moon's we act on the moon primarily first, which means instinctively when the moon and Venus are in aspect to each other, Venus is a benefic, and Venus aids the moon a little bit because the moon has no enemies. But in Vedic astrology, it is considered that each of the planets have certain enemies and certain friends between the other planets, just because certain aspects of our psyche are bound to burn out other aspects of our psyche just by the nature of the way they are. It's like when if you put an ice cube out in the sun, the ice cube is going to melt and it be destroyed by the sun. The ice cube is not going to mess with the sun. If you put a campfire out in the winter is all around it, but the ice won't, and the cold won't kill the fire. It's a one-way relationship of use. In the same way, Venus does not kill the moon, but the moon will overtake Venus when these two are in aspect to each other. So how this typically plays out is that the nature of the moon has an emotional need which kind of ruins and cheapens what the Venus's enjoyment is supposed to be doing. Now, these two are in trine with each other, and it's an interesting thing that Venus is in the 9th from the moon. Technically, Venus wants to be doing what the moon's nature is for. There's a great opportunity of that Venus in Gemini to embody what the moon in Libra really wants to do, which is to be a social instigator, to be a chatty Cathy, to really observe the parameter outside of the personal relationship. Remember, it's the 3rd house relates to Gemini. It's poking around the parameters of what we are. Taurus is the 2. Aries is 1, yourself. Taurus is 2, the couple. Gemini is 3. Can kind of think of it as the environment around the coupling. So Venus in Gemini loves to be kind of like sarcastic and witty. And, ultimately, if you don't have any afflictions here, then you will be able to be the moon in Libra, which is this nice, receptive person, wants to know people, wants to listen to everybody, wants to be admired for its ability to listen. That's how you stay alive. That is a primary way of you getting security for yourself in your life, is the moon in Libra. It's an energy of reciprocation, of wanting to be needed by other people. This energy can play itself out well while applying the Gemini Venus, so that not only do you know the individual people, but you know about things, you know how to talk about things that are kind of interesting to everybody. And the way that you come off is probably hilariously witty. And you know how to deeply entertain through that Venus and Gemini the individual person that you're speaking to through the moon in Libra. The Libra knows about who you're talking about. So this is somebody who can, in a way, teach with what's within to who's in front. and speak of what's within to who's in front. It's the who's in front is the moon in Libra, looking to know a specific person and specific things about them. Venus in Gemini enjoys its own communication style and will make itself endlessly entertaining, which the moon in Libra enjoys naturally, because moon in Libra wants to be a fun, social, light, entertaining vibe to people, so many people will come to it and enjoy the moon in Libra. But more in particularly, the moon in Libra wants to be an entertaining and captivating lover to one specific partner. Venus in Gemini wants to be captivating and entertaining, but the moon in Libra wants it to be romantically, to have its other half. That's what gives moon in Libra security, is having another half. Now, the problem here, what happens with this combination? Again, if Venus has a delight, and if Venus has things that are supporting it, if it's got an aspect from its friend Mercury or Saturn, then it might not get drowned by this particular, by the moon's trine. But if Venus doesn't have much help, and it's even aspected by other malefics and has other difficulties, then this Venus will not be allowed to enjoy being this captivating, chatty entertainer of yourself and as well as all your other friends. You won't be able to do that because you will be emotionally insecure about trying to only put your attention on your lover. So, let me clarify what I'm trying to say. If there's no affliction, then you get to be the chatty entertainer of your partner while also having a social enjoyment for everybody. And it's the enjoyment that you give through everybody that makes your specific lover appreciate you deeply and especially, That's when this is going ideally well. Now, there will be times it'll take you possibly a little while for it to get to that ease because of this dynamic of the moon trining Venus. What it is that the moon in Libra is actually, you got to consider that it's actually very close to its debilitation point of Scorpio. The moon is debilitated in Scorpio. Debilitation and exaltation work by proximity, not by sign. So you're not out of the woods just because you're in the moon in Libra. It's right next door to moon in Scorpio. So the moon in Libra, it's a nice, it wants to be needed for its niceness, for being of service, for listening to people, for accounting for their behaviors, for deeply trying to fixate on what the person is so that you, the moon in Libra, can understand what you can and constantly can do for your partner. Really, there's a deep desire to be of service and usefulness to some partner in the world. And because the moon in Libra is so close to Scorpio, what happens is that this expresses itself through a strangely selfish dynamic sometimes with moon in Libra, where what can happen with the moon in Libra, unless it's got lots of delight, unless it has ways of keeping itself emotionally calm and joyful outside the relationship, what might happen is that the moon in this person, by being so close to Scorpio and by being in Libra, it wants to serve, it wants to be considered useful, it wants to build its security on its usefulness to the other person, or on how much it listens and serves the other person. And that can be a healthy dynamic, but by being so close to Scorpio, what we find is that this dynamic is almost selfish. It's almost like you are trying so hard to secure your relationship that the other person can smell it. It's like the other person feels like you have to do something, you have to do something for them. And so they're like, okay, geez, let me just write out things for you to do for me, I guess, because you're really needing it, because you will feel insecure if you are not the most enjoyed partner that I could possibly have. So this is you as the moon in Libra person. You can be insecure. Consider this as not me telling you what you are, but something to survey your experience with. Don't ever get fixated on anything that's any astrologer on YouTube gives you. But consider that this combination, by being so close to Scorpio, can have an ironically selfish intent, where your desire to serve is more important than the actual service that you provide, or the actual usefulness, or the actual love that you provide to the other person. And what can happen is that the other person begins to question the nature of the love and service that you give to them, because it's coming from such a deep place of need and emotional insecurity on your part. So when the moon is in Libra, unless, again, if there's things helping the moon, it's not going to have this pushing urgency to be connected with your partner. But if you, well, you essentially get what I'm getting at here. So the moon, by starving Venus in Gemini, that Venus in Gemini, it doesn't get to survey the parameter around the relationship, or even to be funny and laugh at the relationship, laugh at the things that I did wrong, laugh at the things that you did wrong, or talk about what this other couple did. They did something, and, like, let's talk about it, because that might give us information about how we are in our relationship. So the Venus in Gemini is this chatty Cathy kind of person. And Venus in Gemini can be good and indirectly communicative of problems in the relationship. That's when this is at its best. And the Venus in Gemini in you wants to consider itself, through that 9th house way, it's a bit of a protector. But it's not the moon that's doing the 9th house protection thing, it's Venus, which simply means that you enjoy feeling like you're protecting your relationship by giving honest communication about what you're feeling about the other person, and talking with the other person about what they're feeling. And it's either two extremes can happen. Number one, the moon in Libra could make you feel like you don't want to talk about things in the relationship because you're afraid that you are going to open up some kind of difficulty or pain between you and your relationship, where you're almost too honest, to inevitable potholes in every relationship. You might feel like you're being too, you don't want to step on toes or ruffle feathers, especially through the moon in Libra, because you are insecure and you want to protect your relationship, because that's how somebody with the moon close to Scorpio thinks. Somebody with the moon closer to Taurus wants to let go of the need to protect it, and so they build things in the relationship. That's the moon closer to Taurus. The relationship gets built on things that invoke organic security between the two people. With moon in Libra, there's a desire to protect the relationship, which means that Venus in Gemini might be kind of bummed out about its desire to speak honestly and earnestly about things in the relationship that it thinks would be useful. The Venus in Gemini is probably less able to, again, explore the parameters outside the relationship, to talk to other people, and just to have lots of friends. Gemini Venus wants to have lots of friends. And you are constantly questioning whether the interests you have outside of your relationship are serving the relationship, or whether they are getting you distracted or away from the relationship. When Venus does well, Venus knows better than anybody, when it does well, that absence makes the heart fonder. And it's just as important for you to enjoy who you are in social circles as it is for you to enjoy who you are in your relationship. This type of person is, again, ultimately what your main ideal is to be entertaining in groups and to be connected with your partner, almost as even to make your partner seem interesting. That's you protecting your relationship from the 9th house vibe, is you feel obligated to make you and your partner's relationship feel interesting and entertaining and enjoyable to you and your partner, and also to other people. And you want your partner to respect you for this. What happens with you, though, is that you, might feel like you're being too entertaining to the world outside of you, and that you might make your lover jealous, which you might, because they might be reflecting on your Libra moon. Or B, You might be afraid that because you put across this vibe that you're this flirty person who wants to talk with everybody, it's like, by doing that and saying, it's okay, darling, I'm still with you. By almost being flirtatious almost, and what's the word? Provocative, promiscuous. By being a little bit promiscuous with your attention and energy and emotional investment outside the relationship, you want to prove that that is just you making your absence present so that the heart can grow fonder when you can actually be in your relationship. You want that to cinch together. It's, this enjoyment that you bring to others wants to be in service to your relationship, ideally. But what ends up happening typically is that there can be jealousy, there can be insecurity from your partner for how provocative or for how promiscuous you are with your time and your emotional energy, as well as your partner doing that. Because you want to be the most interesting thing to your partner. And the moon will probably make you feel like you're not quite it. You'll never quite feel like I can entertain and be interesting and find ways of making myself enjoyable to my lover enough that they will for sure stay with me. This is an insecurity that really comes from your moon. And if you want to combat it, all you really have to do is just meditate, make sure that you have things in your relationship, people in your relationship that give you a deep sense of that lunar security of feeling like you're where you need to be in your life and where you're supposed to be, your family, your brothers and sisters, and things outside of your relationship. So that when you're in your relationship, you have developed this sense that you are worthy and valuable and committed and secure in your relationship, so that you're not like wondering with your present relationship. As well, finding ways to secure yourself with your partner just enough to show that you care about them, you've given them a gift, or you've done something for them through that Libra moon. Now you don't need to anymore accept that your moon is going to always be thinking insecurely, that your lover doesn't think you're as entertaining as you want to be. Reel that in, accept that your brain is going to do that, and it's, accept that it's a reactive neurological complex, and accept it in yourself. Don't judge yourself for it. Just watch it go by like clouds over the eternal sun of what your sun is. And eventually you'll see that this reaction complex of yours, kind of at some level, is probably always going to be there. And with presence of mind, you can get past it and still keep the important relationship that you have. I hope that was a lot. I hope that was clear and useful to you folks. Now, that was just me sort of giving the idea for this combination. Let's look a little bit at what is the moon in Libra in relationship. This is Erotic Astrology by Phyllis Vega. This is particularly talking about, again, the erotic nature of the moon in Libra. Your approach to lovemaking is glamorous and alluring. You appreciate the intricate rituals of old-fashioned courtship, and you enjoy being wooed with finesse and sophistication. The Venus in Gemini will like to rev this kind of thing up, although with the moon there, unfortunately, there might be a deep desire for you to have your partner show you these gestures of wooing and the sophisticated gesture of that your partner was thinking about you. Your partner knows that you like the rose petals draped up the stairs with a bottle of champagne waiting in the bathtub. Your lover knows that you like these particular things or whatever it may be, and they have put in a sophisticated effort to show you that. Now, because the moon is trine Venus, you likely will feel like you'll be bummed out if your partner doesn't do it in a really good way. Thankfully, Venus being in Gemini kind of saves you here a little bit, because Venus is friendly to Gemini, to Mercury. Mercury is a friend to Venus, which means Venus, by being in Gemini, gets enjoyment kind of naturally. So your partner probably doesn't need to do a big, huge, sophisticated display in order to grab your heart. At some level, you can just as long as they're showing like, yes, let's go on a date, let's go to an interesting place, and it's a place that I know you'll like, because they're thinking about you and they're thinking about pleasing you through the particulars of who you are. They're not just throwing out any trick that they would give on any date. They're looking to please you. And so they took you to a place, and now your Gemini Venus can make anything interesting. That's a good thing about the Gemini and Venus. Just keep in mind that you don't want to be too pushy to have your partner show you these gestures of affection all the time. It's a fine balance to find there, because when you do get it from your partner, it's the most blissful thing in the world. But your partner has limits, and you should not push them emotionally for your emotions' sake. That should be organic. Keep that in mind. Sex and romance are intertwined in the Libra moon's mind, and it's likely that you prefer artful seduction to a carnal free-for-all. That's very moon in Libra. Very nice. Very kind of Puritan in a certain way. Your erotic sensuality emerges most readily in a sumptuous setting that engages all the senses. Luxurious bedding, sultry nightwear, soft music, flickering candles, and fresh flowers all add the requisite spice to your lovemaking. This is the romantic side of Moon in Libra. A special night dedicated to love in a romantic setting with moonlight and whispered words of adoration serves as a genuine turn-on, and affectionate gestures and loving words draw out your passions and get your sexual juices flowing. So this is like the arena that's needed in order for the Moon in Libra to be comfortable with unfolding its deepest heartfelt sexuality. It's not necessarily what it's going to do once it gets there. It's like what is needed in order to apply the combination of Moon in Libra with Venus and Gemini. Of course, that Venus and Gemini is really going to add an interesting variety that doesn't necessarily need to be too emotional. It just needs to be sentimental for the Moon in Libra's sake. And there's a difference. Emotional is like, oh, like there's a crying and there's like a soulful, like soulmate. You can still have an experience of that soulmate thing, but your soulmate will be kind of like lighter, like you, like almost laughing at yourselves having sex or during sex, you know? Laughing during sex can ruin things for some people. You're the type of person who can like, you know, like you'll be, you know, your lover will be on top of you and they'll accidentally put their hand on your hair and they go, ow, that's my hair. And they're like, oh, sorry. And it's like, oh, it's okay. I kind of liked it or something. You'll be able to roll with it because that's the Venus and Gemini being easygoing and letting just whatever's going on happen. So you look for the sophisticated gestures of thoughtful lovemaking, but it doesn't need to be too heavy. It doesn't need to, you don't need to feel like they're scorpionic about it or like they need to be all encompassing with passion in that moment. So that was my own spiel about it. We're going to have one final reading from Erotic Astrology. And this is the Moon in Libra with Venus and Gemini in the bedroom. With two air signs being more intellectual than physical or emotional, it's not unusual for you to find a spirited discussion as stimulating as a passionate sexual encounter. In the bedroom, your relaxed, easygoing nature makes you an ideal bedmate, likely to go along with whatever your partner wants. Easygoing. An incurable romantic, you're prone to falling in love with the idea of love. With the idea of it. However, you can be easily bored and wanting interest and variety. You may go through several romances before really finally settling down. The charismatic lover with the wit and intelligence to keep you interested is the one most likely to catch and keep you. In my personal opinion, I would say that the Moon in Libra here will likely stick to relationships that don't work before they eventually get into this place where they can try on different lovers before finally settling with who they want. Both of these are airy signs that like to try the pie before they buy. And they like to flirt around with a lot of things, but at least while you're discovering who you are and who you want to be with. And that's a healthy thing if you can allow yourself to do that. To a certain point. Ultimately, I think the moon in Libra is better served to find a charismatic lover with wit and intelligence with whom you will want to spend most of your time with. And that person will probably have a sense of variety. That person will be a changeable, mutable, interesting person just like you are. So, I hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope that this was clear. Let me know in the comments if I put this across in a way that makes sense to you. I'm Dustin Cormier for How to Rock Astrology. See you guys on the next thing of whatever you see me on. Thanks for watching.